So this is passing through Oklahoma. I end up getting stung by a bee yet again. On the last trip I went on, I also got stung in the chest, and it hurts, man. Apparently, it's a tradition to just go on a road trip and get stung. The picture there at the beginning, that will foretell what is to come. But here's Nebraska, really pretty. It's really just flat. Kind of looks like a Windows wallpaper a lot of the time. Here's a train, check this out. Yeah, got him to honk for me. And I thought this was really cool. I've seen stock clips of railroad crossings and trains crossing them, but to actually see one in person was really cool. So here comes Rex. I'm like, oh cool, he's just wanting to go fast. Then he says, I gotta go pee. So he takes off and he's gone for like a while. And then out of all the spots to pee, he decides to pee right in front of a bicyclist. So this is right after coming from the wall drug out in South Dakota. I see off in the distance some rain clouds and definitely some rain. I'm like, we're gonna hit some rain probably. So we're traveling. Right there you see some lightning. I was like, oh dang, that's intense. And yeah, we just keep going towards it, and yet again another lightning bolt. And I'm like, dude, this is kind of intense. So right here, I'm getting hit by the wind very hard from the left. So I'm trying to push, lean into the wind to the left, and I'm just like, please, for the love of God, please stay on. I'm trying to signal, we're slowing down, I'm gonna pull over. I was trying to get to the underpass, but I just could not make it. Right here, I was like, I'm done for, I'm going over. And luckily, by the grace of God, I did not. I kept it up, but boy, that was intense. So we pulled over. I mean, look at the grass. I mean, you can see how windy it is. The most wind I've ever encountered in my life. And what's scary was I almost thought my bike was gonna tip over, and then I get right here and he asked, where's Rex? And I'm like, I don't know. And we didn't know for a while, but it turned out he was okay. He just went on by himself, pulled over, and he was fine. Day 3, we went through the Black Hills, we went through Deadwood and the Roughlock Falls. This whole part was just the Black Hills area. We really were just cruising through, looking at all the sights, the pretty scenery. When we were in Deadwood, I didn't actually get any video clips of it, but while we were in Deadwood, we stopped at this art gallery. It was called Scott Jacobs Studio, and he actually was there. He owned the place with he and his wife. They both used to ride motorcycles, like old Harleys, cross country and stuff. They had a really cool story about them journeying across the country and everything. But we hung out with him. He took us upstairs, which was, where they lived, and showed us his whole art studio where he actually did his art. It was really cool. He showed us a painting he was working on. It was the branches of the military art piece, and it was really neat. He ended up taking us to his restaurant that he owned that was also in Deadwood. So really cool guy. The Roughlock Falls, it was kind of cool. It wasn't the best waterfalls. The one that we thought was going to be the greatest ended up not being that great, and the one that wasn't very talked about was one of the ones I got really good photos of, and it's actually the beginning photo of this day. This is riding into Sturgis. We got into Sturgis, and I was like, dude, we're here. So there it is. You can see Sturgis in the hills, kind of like the Hollywood lettering. We got there day 3, went to the motorcycle museum. Day 4, we actually went back. So this is actually day 4 now. We rode down the main street just to kind of check everything out. Here are all the guys I rode with and the lady on the back. And it's not a motorcycle trip unless you hightail it at least once. So here's that moment. right, day 4, the Badlands of South Dakota. So the Badlands, in my mind, is kind of like a miniature Grand Canyon. It's just interesting how it all formed. There's a lot of just green grass plains, and then there's just rocks interspersed, and you can see the layers of it, and it's really neat. So there was a lot of, during the trip, a lot of this. Just stop, pull over, get off, take my helmet off, maybe keep it on, get my camera, take a couple shots, pack it up, hop back on. There was a lot of that. It was kind of annoying, but it was worth it in the end. But in the moment, it kind of sucked. There was a lot of just on, off on the bike. So this part, coming up the hill, I almost got like I was in Europe or something, or in Iceland. Or Scotland. It just felt like I was in a different country. It was really wild being out here. Yeah, I was pointing at the little rock structure there. It was like a sharp pointed rock on a stem. It was an interesting formation. There it is. That's kind of the Badlands in a nutshell. And exiting Badlands, we kind of hit some rain off in the distance. Wasn't too bad or anything, but I got a cool photo. So day 5 was definitely the best day. There was so much activities packed into this day, and it was definitely the reason I came on the trip for Mount Rushmore. And I didn't even know about Needles Highway until this trip, and I highly recommend it. It was awesome, but we'll get there. So anyway, here's Mount Rushmore. It's super surreal seeing Mount Rushmore. It's just a whole bunch of rocks, or it's a mountain face, and then with actual human faces on it. It's pretty wild. So this was exiting Mount Rushmore. We beat the rush getting there, and so this is leaving. That was a whole bunch of cars. So we definitely got there at the right time because there was so much traffic afterwards. So I think this is the Black Hills area out of Mount Rushmore. Lots of bridges going under and going over. It's really cool. A lot of nice twisties on a motorcycle. Very fun. There's a good amount of tunnels that we went through as well. And of course, when you go through a tunnel, you have to rev your engine. I mean, you're not a motorcyclist if you don't do that, right? What was cool about this area and unique was the fact that at some points, the road, each lane would go its separate way, and then it would rejoin into one street again, so it was really neat. Some of these hairpin turns going back and forth down the mountain was really cool, just to see the overlook of it all. Here you can see in the distance Mount Rushmore. I pointed at it. It's just so pretty, such a pretty area. And this one I kept turning backwards because you could actually see Mount Rushmore. And I was wanting to stop, but I didn't, and I kind of regret it now. But that's why this lady on the right is standing there, because she's trying to get a clear shot through the tunnel of Mount Rushmore. And right here I got a picture of my bike and Mount Rushmore way off in the distance. And then I had to rush back to the group because I think they all went on, and then I stayed to snap that photo. So here's Custer State Park. Custer State Park was really neat. Right after we got in, this was a whole bunch of bison just chilling on the street. It was really cool. Andrew does too now. Got one running. He got scared. He's crossing the street, but he's running. Little baby buffalo. Oh, he's so cute. And then there's an elk on the side of the road to the left. And then here's just a whole bunch of bison. Just lots and lots and lots of them. So we got off. I took a couple photos and we went on our way. But Custer State Park is just basically this. A whole bunch of plains and grass. And it's really pretty. So here we were talking about how awesome it would be to have a dirt bike, or even my bike, just going off on the hills and riding around the hills on the dirt bike. It would be so fun. And this area was a real nice twisty area, I think coming out of Custer State Park pretty quickly. So here's Needles Highway. I would highly recommend Needles Highway. Definitely would recommend. Like right here, you can kind of see just the vastness of it all on the far right. This whole trip I was looking for like that shot, you know, of my bike and the environment, and I saw that rock and I was like, that might be it. So got off my bike, snapped a photo, and I was like, yep, that's it. That's the photo. And this honestly might have been the coolest part right here. I wish I would have been able to get off and kind of look and take it all in, but I was trying to catch up with the buddies I was riding with, so I kept going. But yeah, I mean, if you look off to the left, it's so cool. So we're waiting to go into this Needle's Eye tunnel, and after we got through it, there was a bus, like a tour bus, that made its way through here, and I didn't see it, but one of the buddies said it was probably like an inch clearing on either side of the bus to make it through that. So they did it, but boy was it close. So I was telling Craig, who was on comms, this would be a really cool hill climb area for a car, because all the back and forth going up the hill. And here's Crazy Horse, which is another rock monument, kind of like Mount Rushmore, but it's an Indian chief riding a horse. And it's been working on since the 1940s, I believe, and it's still being worked on. So when it's done, it'll probably look really awesome, but they are still working on it. This is Pactola Lake and Reservoir. One of the guys kind of knew this area, and so it's kind of a hidden area, which I don't think the street really goes through. Like, there's no through traffic, so you kind of come this way and then you have to go back. So it ended up being a cool spot to hang out and just look at the lake and the scenery. Day 6, we left South Dakota and headed to Wyoming. And in Wyoming is Devil's Tower. So if you've ever seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, this shot of the dude getting gas reminded me of the opening scene. And definitely getting Close Encounters vibes from Wyoming, seeing Devil's Tower. It was really cool to actually see it in person. After watching the movie and being a huge fan of the movie, actually seeing it in person, and we actually got to walk around it too, which was cool. We walked around the whole thing. I think it was like 1.5 miles. And then right here we see some prairie dogs on the road. Those are cute. Just really cool experience seeing Devil's Tower in person. And then as we were leaving, the UFOs decided to show up. All the clouds showing off their little spherical, maybe they're having a council meeting that day, I'm not really sure, but we left and let them do their thing. So once we got on the road to travel through Wyoming to get to our next stop, we were getting blasted by wind the whole day. that sign said 40-mile-an-hour plus wind gust. It was awful. And so after I think an hour or two, we had to pull over and just, regroup, say, hey, we good, because it was literally all day just getting blasted by wind. And it wasn't as bad as what we experienced when I was getting almost blown over, but it was just constant getting bombarded by wind. And so you couldn't relax on the bike. You had to just keep fighting it, but we made it through and we were fine. So here are the Rocky Mountains. It was super pretty, of course. I really kind of forgot how pretty it actually was. And yeah, just seeing it all again in person was a treat. So this whole day we were trying to kill time before we went to the Rocky Mountain National Park. We had a time-sensitive ticket that started at, I believe it was 4, and so we were just trying to kill time till 4 o'clock to get in. And so we were riding just around the Rocky Mountains a little bit, the parts that we could, and then finally got into the Rocky Mountain National Park. This part was so pretty. It was so cool looking over and seeing this valley and little town in between the mountains. It was so breathtaking, so cool. And we actually ended up having lunch down there at this place. It was an Irish pub. Reviews were really good, and it was, I guess, an off day. The chef was like a brother-in-law or something, and it turned out to be kind of an awful lunch experience. My burger was burnt. Soup for another guy came out. It was cold. Anyway, bad experience, but it was fine. So this part, I was backing out and the pavement was slanted, and so I was having a hard time keeping it up. But actually pulling into this parking spot, I was gonna try to back in, and so I turned real sharp and was leaning the bike, and it was turned so much and I was coming to a stop, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna drop it. But mid falling it, I'm thinking, just pull the clutch out and I'll save it. And I did, and I saved it and I didn't fall. The fact that I'm in this location on my motorcycle was so cool to me. Just being able to be in this environment, riding my bike, was a very cool experience.
Moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. Hazard, quarter size hail. Oh, great.
So the whole trip into the Rocky Mountains, it was either really hot, or we were worried about rain, or it got really cold. And so we were switching gloves, we were putting on a rain suit, we were taking it off, we were putting it back on. I mean, that day I probably took on and off my rain jacket probably 6 times or something. I mean, it was ridiculous. A really, really pretty area. I mean, video just doesn't do it justice, obviously, but still, I mean, really pretty area, and would definitely go back for sure. And while we were up there, we actually got to the Continental Divide, which is a really cool thing to say. So this part, I had run out of battery in my GoPro beforehand, and so we had gone through a whole bunch of places that looked like this, that a fire had come through and just destroyed everything. It was just very interesting riding through that and experiencing the vibe that it gave off. So I thought once we got out of the Rocky Mountain National Park and like even at the lake and everything, I was like, all right, we're kind of out of it. And then we drove right back into some more mountains. I was like, dude, what in the world? And so this is how I got stuck in breathable gloves during very cold temperatures. I say very cold. It was maybe 40s, I think, something like that, but it was cold in the hands. So day 8, this was Colorado, kind of on the way back home to Texas. We hit up Garden of the Gods. On the way there, we for some reason saw a whole bunch of old cars, so that's what you're seeing now. Garden of the Gods, I mean, it was cool. I'm glad it was a stop along the way, you know? It wasn't anything to really say, oh, hey, you got to go and see that. I mean, after seeing what we had just seen, it was kind of like, it was okay. But, I mean, if you hadn't seen any of those things and then saw this, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And it is. I mean, it's an interesting formation of just random rocks in a row. It's kind of pretty. So day 9, we woke up 4:15 or something to leave by 5 in the morning because we really wanted to beat the Texas heat. And so got up that early and headed out, and we made it home, and we had a great trip. No problems or issues.